You've poured hours into a brilliant new strategy, or a streamlined process, or an amazing cultural initiative for your team. You present it to everyone, they're nodding along enthusiastically. Maybe when it's over, they even clap. Everyone is excited about making this new change, about getting better. And then, after a while, you go to check on some people, and all that enthusiasm just evaporated. You got everyone excited about this change, but then nothing changed. Why not? What makes these new initiatives and ideas stick? What makes people stick with them? It's not the quality of the idea that counts here. Sometimes it's about how that idea is communicated. I'll explain. If you're new to the channel, my name is David Burkus, and I study high-performing teams and work with leaders to build their best team ever. Work dynamics are constantly changing, and if you want to know what you need to know to take your team to the next level, then subscribe to this channel, or better yet, join our email newsletter community, link in the description below. All right, let's get into it. For a long time, managers have been absolutely obsessed with making organizations as efficient as possible. You've got pioneers like Frederick Taylor and W. Edwards Deming bringing ideas of scientific management and ways to improve quality control. Even modern ideas like Six Sigma or Agile. But if you've ever tried to implement one of these things in an organization, you probably picked up on the fact that a lot of the efforts to change behavior just don't stick. Research from UNC and Oxford suggests that it's not enough to just roll these programs out, to put them in place. The real challenge for leaders is getting people to stick with them in the long haul. They call this the improvement paradox. And in their research, they found that just 1 year after rolling out a new process, most organizations, like 50% of organizations, were just abandoning it. And after 2 years, it was a shocking only 1/3 that were continuing in the new process. 1/3, that hurts. To understand why this happened, the researchers examined 200 projects at a large European bank. We're talking thousands of branches, 1,600 employees in total. Why didn't these new improvement initiatives stick? Well, they found a few culprits. One was simply initiative fatigue. We've all been there, right? Too many changes makes every change boring. New trend, new fad, new business book lands on the CEO's desk, and suddenly we're all talking about the new ways of work until next quarter when he read a new book. Another was a lack of personal bottom line improvement. What's in it for me? When people don't see themselves in the change, when they don't see themselves and themselves benefiting from that improvement, it's no surprise that they don't want to put forth all of the effort to make those changes. It's really easy to go back to old habits. If the effort needed to support the new initiative is greater than the benefits people derive from it, then the change won't stick. And killing ownership was also a factor in backsliding. A lot of change initiatives are thrust upon people, either from senior leaders or from a group of consultants that were paid way too much money to come up with just the standard formula. When people are given rigid, demanding tasks and told that they must comply, it's no surprise that they're going to reject that. When it feels like a task dictated from above, it's no longer a calling, it's no longer motivating or engaging. You see, many of us, especially as we grow in our expertise, fall victim to what's known as the curse of knowledge. It's a natural human tendency that as we know more about something, we just assume everybody knows it. We have no ability to know what it's like to not know that thing that we know. Back in 1990, Stanford PhD student Elizabeth Newton set up an interesting experiment. 2 participants come into a room and one of them taps out a song, and the other just has to guess what song they're tapping. Sounds easy, right? Not quite. Let's try it. Did you get that one? I mean, I know what it is. Did you get it? Probably not. In the study, out of 120 attempts, only 2.5% of the time did the other participant properly guess the song. I mean, why? Well, because there's a whole lot more to melody than just tapping. There's a whole lot more information in my head that's not in yours. And yet the curse of knowledge says, I'm just going to assume that all of that information is in your head too. By the way, it was happy birthday. In the workplace, this can translate into a senior leader monologuing about the promise of a new initiative that blends AI, accounting, crypto, and cold plunges in a way that maximizes synergy and boosts performance. He's sitting there intoxicated with the idea and wondering why no one else understands it. Well, there's a lot more going on in his head that led him to become obsessed with this idea that's not getting translated to everyone else. And crypto and cold plunges are generally a bad idea. Our love for a new idea or a new plan clouds our ability to see whether or not it really lands with the rest of the team. I get it. Why don't they get it? I'm in love with it. Why aren't they in love with it? But there's a lot more information going on in your head than is actually getting communicated to everyone else. Chip and Dan Heath, one a Stanford professor and best-selling author, the other a researcher and, well, also best-selling author because they wrote the book together, they would argue that it's not the charisma or enthusiasm of the idea that gets it across to people. It's the design of the message that determines whether or not it really lands. It turns out there are principles that naturally sticky ideas tend to follow, and it creates kind of a template for anyone who's trying to sell their idea or their change. Here's a few of those principles. Don't dumb down your message. Instead, find its essential core. This is about stripping off all those superfluous details and getting down to that one thing that people need to remember and hitting it often. Then make that message compact, almost like a proverb. When leaders give a clear commander's intent, they empower their team by helping them remember what's most important. Ask yourself, if my team only remembers one thing from this call, this email, this communique, what do I want it to be and how can I make sure that they see that core message often? Move away from abstract business jargon, mission statements, and synergy, and instead explain your idea in terms of human actions and sensory information. Naturally sticky ideas are full of visual imagery. Before the iPhone was the must-have device for all of us, there was the Palm Pilot, at least the must-have device in the business world. And this was at a time where technology was constantly trying to add new and better features into everything. To combat this, the lead engineer on the Palm Pilot, a guy named Jeff Hawkins, came up with a pretty novel solution to focusing in everyone's thinking. He got his hands on a wooden block, literally a block of wood, the same shape and dimensions and similar weight as the Palm Pilot, and he carried it with him wherever he went. And when a new engineer or somebody thought, hey, let's cram this feature in there, let's add this thing, let's add this new bell, this new whistle, he would simply take the block of wood out of his pocket and say, hey, that's a good idea. Where are we gonna put it? What a beautiful way to use a visual, really a tangible symbol to make it concrete that the goal was not to put in every single feature. The goal was to keep it in the dimensions and size that people would use as many features as could fit into what was usable. So how do you put this into practice? Well, sometimes the best advice comes in the form of old cliches. Show, don't tell. Stories are one of the most powerful tools a leader can use because they're one of the oldest tools in human history that we've been using to communicate ideas. Instead of just abstract thoughts and data, humans are wired to process information in the form of a story. So when you're working with your team and you need to have them be more collaborative, don't just say, hey, we need to get along better, we need to collaborate more. Tell them a story about what good collaboration looks like, or a story about when collaboration didn't happen and everything fell apart. You don't need a slide deck to do this. You don't need bullet points. You don't need to draft a memo. You just need to think about what are stories from our past history as a team or my past history as a leader that illustrate this concept that I'm trying to make stick. The key to making any change stick is to make people feel their agreement with it. And people don't feel instructions, but they do feel narratives. Making ideas stick, making change initiatives stick, it's not a magic formula. It doesn't require natural charismatic talent. It's a learnable discipline. And it comes down to asking yourself, when I'm communicating this idea and its importance, am I going beyond the curse of knowledge? Am I making my idea simple? Am I making it concrete? And am I telling it in a story people want to be a part of? I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to, and that's ultimately what leadership and leading change is about. Helping people see the story of the better future that change represents. And one of the best ways to really get people motivated towards that brighter future is to make sure they know who is served by the change beyond just themselves, their community, their stakeholders, what I call pro-social purpose. So you're gonna wanna check out this video here on how to build a sense of pro-social purpose to motivate your team to change, to improve, and to grow.